Okay, so you sent over this Motley Fool article.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It's called 3 Top EV Stocks to Buy in April.
Right.
It's dated April 6th, 2025. So pretty recent.
Yeah, hot off the press.
And basically, we're going to take a deep dive into, Rivian, Neo, and Polestar.
Yeah.
See what's going on with those companies.
Why they're being highlighted now.
Why they're being highlighted as, potential investment opportunities right now.
Exactly.
And it's kind of an interesting time in the EV market.
For sure.
Especially with what the article talks about is the backdrop.
Mm-hmm.
You have the potential for these Liberation Day tariffs to really reshape things.
Yeah, Trump's back in office.
Yeah.
Things are going to change.
With a vengeance.
Yeah.
So, and also the article talks about, Tesla's stock being down 40% this year.
Huge drop.
Yeah, a huge drop.
I mean, it was bound to happen at some point.
Yeah, I mean, how long can it go up?
Right, exactly.
So that's all kind of creating this environment where other EV manufacturers might have a chance to really,
step in,
make some moves and thrive.
Yeah, fill that gap.
Yeah, so let's
dive in.
Yeah, let's dive in and take a closer look at these companies.
Sounds good.
Okay, so starting with Rivian, NASDAQ Q ticker, RIVN.
Yep.
They've got the R1T pickup, the R1S SUV.
I've seen a few of those around.
Yeah, they're pretty cool looking.
They are.
And, of course, those electric delivery vans you see all over the place now.
Oh, yeah, those are everywhere.
But the article really focuses on their upcoming launch.
Oh, yeah.
Of the more affordable R2 SUV.
The R2, right.
In 2026.
Okay.
So that's still a couple of years away.
Yeah.
But they're saying that could be a real stabilizing force for their business.
Right, like a flagship.
Yeah.
Build around.
Now, when you look at their delivery numbers, in 2023, they had a huge jump, like 147% increase.
Wow.
And they delivered over 50,000 vehicles, which is pretty impressive. But then in 2024, that increase was much smaller, only 3%.
Oh, wow. So a big slowdown.
You had about 51,700 vehicles.
Interesting.
And the article says that's due to, the typical stuff, supply chain disruptions.
Of course.
Or competition.
Naturally.
And they have that plant shut down for a while.
Right. Yeah, I remember that.
So 2025, they're actually projecting a bit of a decrease.
Oh, really?
Yeah, their deliveries are expected to be somewhere between 46,000 and 51,000 vehicles. They cite further plant upgrades to get ready for the R2.
Makes sense.
Ongoing component shortages, of course.
Always an issue.
And the impact of those Los Angeles fires last year.
Oh, right. Yeah, that was a huge deal.
Which apparently was a key market for them.
Interesting.
And then, of course, they're factoring in the potential tariffs.
Yeah, those are looming large.
Yeah. So it kind of sounds a little concerning on the surface.
Yeah, not great.
But then the article shifts gears and talks about their gross margin.
Okay.
Which actually saw a big improvement.
Oh.
Yeah, it went from negative 188% in 2022.
Oof, that's rough.
To negative 24% in 2024.
That's still negative, but a huge improvement.
It is a huge improvement.
Wow.
And they're actually projecting a modest gross profit in 2025.
Okay, so they're getting there.
Yeah, they're getting there.
That's good to see.
And the article says that's due to a few things. Lower manufacturing costs.
As they refine their processes.
Right, and then the growth of their software and services.
Which usually have higher margins.
Exactly. And lastly, the sale of regulatory credits.
Oh, right. Those are valuable.
Yeah, so other automakers who don't meet emission standards buy those credits from EV manufacturers.
Smart move by Rivian.
Yeah. So it's interesting. They're not profitable overall yet.
Right.
But these improvements are seen as encouraging.
Definitely, especially with the R2 on the horizon.
Exactly. So in terms of valuation, their current enterprise value is about $12.6 billion.
Okay.
And their price-to-sales ratio for this year is about 2.3 times.
Right.
So for comparison, the article says Tesla's is 6.9 times.
So there's room for growth.
Yeah, the suggestion is that if Rivian can deliver some positive news, especially around the R2, their stock could really jump.
Makes sense. Investors are looking for that potential.
Okay, so let's move on to Neo.
All right.
They trade on the NYSE ticker NIO.
Got it.
And they're a Chinese EV manufacturer.
Okay.
Making both sedans and SUVs.
Interesting.
And they're expanding into Europe as well.
Ambitious.
Yeah. They're really trying to grow their presence.
Smart move. Europe is a big market for EVs.
For sure. And they've got this unique thing with their batteries.
Oh, yeah. I've heard about that.
They're removable, and they have these battery swapping stations.
Yeah. That's pretty innovative.
It's pretty different from what everyone else is doing.
Right. It addresses that whole range anxiety issue.
Yeah, exactly. And those long charging times.
For sure.
So it'll be interesting to see if that catches on.
Yeah, if it becomes the industry standard.
So their delivery growth was really strong in 2020 and 2021.
Okay.
But then it slowed down in 2022 and 2023. Well, in 2023, they still saw a 31% increase,
Not bad.
reaching over 160,000 vehicles delivered.
So still growth, but slower.
Yeah. And the article blames it on, supply chain problems,
Makes sense.
fierce competition in the Chinese market,
Oh, yeah, there are a lot of players there.
and a general slowdown in China's economy.
Right. That's been in the news.
But then in 2024, they had a huge rebound.
Oh, wow. So they bounced back.
Yeah, deliveries surged 39% to almost 222,000 vehicles.
That's impressive.
And they've been gaining market share domestically
Okay.
with their ET sedans, ES SUVs, and EC crossovers.
So a good mix of offerings.
Yeah, and they also launched a more affordable model.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the Onvo L60.
What's that like?
It's designed to compete with Tesla's Model Y,
Interesting. Going head to head.
but with a much lower starting price, like around $20,500.
Wow, that's aggressive.
Yeah, so that could be a big driver of growth for them.
I'm sure appealing to a wider audience.
Exactly. And their annual vehicle margin also improved.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, it went from 9.5%
Yeah.
in 2023 to 12.3% in 2024.
So they're making more money per vehicle.
Yeah. And the article says that's because they're selling more of their premium vehicles.
Which have higher margins.
Exactly. So looking ahead, they're launching a new compact electric hatchback called the Firefly,
Okay.
aiming at both the Chinese and European markets.
So expanding their reach.
Yeah, and there's talk of them shifting some production to Europe
Interesting.
to avoid those potential tariffs on Chinese-made EVs.
Smart move, staying ahead of the curve.
Yeah, they're definitely thinking strategically.
For sure.
So their enterprise value is $8.9 billion,
All right.
and their price-to-sales ratio is even lower than Rivian's at just 0.7 times this year's projected sales.
Wow, that's pretty low.
It is, and they're still getting some subsidies from the Chinese government,
Helpful.
and they have strong cash reserves.
So they're in a good position.
Yeah, the article definitely paints a picture of potential upside for them.
As long as they can keep this momentum going.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so last but not least, let's look at Polestar.
Right.
They trade on the NASDAQ under PSNY,
Okay.
and they were originally Volvo's performance brand.
Oh, right. I remember that.
But now they're independent,
Interesting.
making luxury EVs
Okay.
like the Polestar 2, 3, and 4.
So they're in the high-end segment.
Yeah, going after that premium market.
Bold move.
They had a big jump in deliveries in 2022, like 80% growth.
Wow, that's huge.
But then in 2023, it slowed way down to just 6%.
Oh, what happened there?
Well, the article says they had some software problems
Oh,
that delayed the launch of the Polestar 3.
that's never good.
Yeah, it definitely hurt them.
So what's their financial picture looking like?
Well, that's where things get a little messy.
Oh, no.
They haven't released their full year 2024 results yet
Why not?
because they had to restate their 2023 filings.
Oh, boy. Accounting issues.
Yeah, apparently some errors they had to fix.
That's a good look.
And they had previously said they were expecting a mid-teens % decline in revenue for 2024.
So things aren't looking great.
Yeah, not so good.
What are they doing to turn things around?
Well, they're getting pretty aggressive.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're running these trade-in-your-Tesla deals.
Wow, that's bold, going right after the king.
Yeah, they're offering up to $20,000 towards a Polestar 3 lease if you trade in your Tesla.
Interesting tactic.
Yeah, it's a pretty direct attack on the market leader.
It could work, though. Some people might be looking for a Tesla alternative.
Right, especially with Tesla's stock being down.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So the article says that once they finally release their delayed earnings report,
Whenever that is.
yeah, it could be a positive catalyst.
Assuming the numbers aren't worse than expected.
Right, but right now there's a lot of uncertainty.
Definitely a wait-and-see situation.
But despite not being profitable yet
Okay.
and all these recent challenges,
Right.
the article does point to a more optimistic outlook for the future.
Oh, really?
Yeah, analysts are predicting their revenue will more than double in 2025.
Wow, that's a big jump.
Yeah, they're pinning their hopes on the launch of the Polestar 5 Grand Tourer
Okay, a new model.
and the expansion of their manufacturing into the U.S. and South Korea.
So going global.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So their enterprise value is just $4.6 billion.
All right.
And their projected price-to-sales ratio for 2025 is only 1.0 times.
So super low.
Yeah, the article basically says if they can get their act together,
Right.
there's a lot of potential upside.
High risk, high reward.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay, so just to kind of recap what we've learned,
Yeah.
Rivian is banking on the success of their R2.
Right, that more affordable SUV.
after working through some production issues.
Yeah, they're still figuring things out.
NIO is seeing strong growth in China and Europe,
Smart expansion.
and they're launching new models.
Yeah, trying to cover all the bases.
And then there's Polestar.
The wild card.
Yeah, they're trying to make a comeback.
Big expectations riding on those new models.
But there's a lot of uncertainty surrounding them.
For sure.
And I think it's important to remember that the article is highlighting these three companies.
Right.
Because Tesla is facing some challenges.
The king is vulnerable.
Yeah, and there's that whole tariff situation looming.
Right, which could really shake things up.
So this is just a snapshot in time.
Yeah, things change quickly in this market.
The EV market is so dynamic.
For sure.
New technologies, consumer preferences, global economics, politics.
Still a lot to keep track of.
It is, but I think this deep dive has given you a good overview
Definitely.
of some of the key players.
Beyond just Tesla.
Right, and it's interesting to see how they're all approaching this market.
Yeah, such different strategies.
So as we wrap up, here's a final thought for you to ponder.
Okay.
Given everything we've talked about today, what factors do you think will ultimately determine the long-term success of these companies?
That's a good question.
Yeah, think about technological innovation,
Right.
consumer adoption,
Will people buy these cars?
global economic conditions,
Yeah, that's a big one.
and the political landscape.
Which is always unpredictable.
It is, but we'll leave the specific political viewpoints out of it.
Right.
So hopefully this deep dive has been helpful,
It has been.
and maybe it'll spark some further exploration on your part.
Yeah, there's always more to learn.
Exactly. So thanks for sharing this article with us,
You're welcome.
and thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
My pleasure.